The pregame show at the Hall of Fame is brought to you by Toyota. I love what you do for me. And by Hoover. Nobody gets the dirt like Hoover. Nobody. Now here's Neil Hartman.
On the shores of Lake Otsego in central New York lies the quaint village of Cooperstown. It has been said if baseball wasn't invented here, it should have been. Welcome to the Otsego Hotel just down the road from the Hall of Fame. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Neil Hartman. Welcome to a very special 45-minute edition of the pregame show. We're coming to you from the Otsego Hotel in Cooperstown, New York, where in just a couple of hours from now, Mike Schmidt and Rich Ashburn will be inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. And we are joined here on this program today by the two newest members of the Hall of Fame, Mike Schmidt and Rich Ashburn, along with, there's Mike. Say hi, Mike. And there's Rich. And also joining us today is Harry Callis. What would be a Phillies broadcast without Harry Callis joining us here on the show today? Well, Schmitty, you got a couple of hours?
Look at those knees. Huh?
By the way, they both
scored a lot of runs.
Yeah, they both just came off the golf course, so they are all the Hall of Famers get together and play a little golf. Well, you got a couple hours. Have you got everything, all the T's crossed and all the I's dotted for your speech?
Yes, Neil, I sure do. But just when I think I do, I open that darn thing up again and start crossing some more T's. And I don't know whether Richie's probably going to ad-lib his thing today. I know if I know Rich, but I have a few things written down.
Well, is that true? Is that true? You're going to ad-lib?
Well, I'm going to wing it, and I'll probably mess it up because I've never done anything like this before. I've spoken to a lot of groups and never bothered me that much. But I think all those people and all my family around and, you know, Schmitty around and Harry around, people like that, I'm a little worried about it.
Whitey's the best off-the-cuff speaker I ever saw. He'll have no problem. You really are. And yeah, I'm sure you're excited about it. But what a great day for the Delaware Valley.
It's a terrific day. You know, Harry, let's take a look at the numbers first with Michael Jack. And what stands out as far as these numbers for you?
I guess I have to be very happy with the 3 MVP awards. I guess there's two other players, Stan Musial, is it Roy Campanella? Mm-hmm. The other 2 players
what
in the
about
National
the 30
League.
or more home runs? 13
Well,
times,
yeah, that says
Mike.
something for consistency over the long haul. And you know, when you look at that, you start thinking about Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, people like that. So to be in that kind of company is very special also. And it takes playing a long time, 150, 55 games a year to accomplish that. And Richie, I guess you'd agree when you have something that shows consistency over a long period, it's something you can be proud of.
You can hang your hat on it.
Let's take a look at, hey, Rich, take a look at your numbers. Now, you were talking off the top of the show when we showed the open. Here we had Mike hitting a home run, you hitting a single, but a 308 lifetime batting average. This day and age, you'd be a multi-millionaire.
One thing you don't have on there, Schmitty and I together hit 577 home runs.
Well, he had 548 of them. So.
Yeah.
You know, ironically, Neil, you talk about home runs. Schmitty used to get more of a kick out of a base hit to right field to drive in a run than he did a homer.
That's exactly right, Harry. It is ironic. I try to hit singles my whole career and was much maligned for thinking that, you know. Just get up there and swing as hard as you can and hit your 250 and your 30 home runs and everybody will be happy. And I felt the road to becoming a better hitter, an all-around hitter, an all-around player was to learn to hit singles, you know, with 2 outs and a man on second, 1 out and a man on third. You got to learn to give in to that pitcher a little bit, and it only took me 14, 15 years to be comfortable with that.
Well, I remember a dinner we had in Cincinnati, not a dinner, but an after-game party that Ben Wensler threw, and a lot of Dayton people were there, and your dad was there, and you were talking that very thing, and your dad said, Michael, they're paying you to hit the ball out of the ballpark, right?
Yeah, well, that's easy for him to say. He had the frustration of not being a real tough hitter in clutch situations, as you guys all remember. I don't know whether Neil does, but early in my career, Lazinski was known on the team as the guy who they feared with the game on the line. You know, the guy that could fight that ball off over second, hit that ground ball up the middle. Good 2-out hitter, a Tony Perez type guy, right? And that's what I always wanted to be. I always wanted to be that guy, but it just wasn't my nature. It wasn't part of my game. And I was bound and determined to make it part of my game.
Which you did.
I think I did. I think my last 2 or 3 years when I was healthy with the Phillies, 85, 86, 87, I think I was a 290, 295 hitter and a tough hitter with men on base.
Mike, let me just get one quick thing in here about your speech today. I thought you did something very interesting. You got 432 responses on the email on the internet, and you actually used a woman from Colorado that you're going to use part of what she wrote to you, what you should say today in your speech.
Yeah, she gave me some suggestions. There were 32 finalists, to be exact, and read through all these suggestions from people all over the world, as a matter of fact, and some of her suggestions are definitely incorporated in my speech.
Well, we'll look forward to hearing that, and we will have a lot more for you here on the pregame show today. We are coming to you from the Hall of Fame, Babe and all. The pregame show from the Hall of Fame is sponsored in part by Nationwide Insurance Enterprise. Nationwide is on your side.
Charles Bronson, proud to protect and serve the law.
What do you mean there's no chocolate donuts?
Let me check again. A fearless cop who's taking a serious fight out of crime.
And there were no chocolate donuts either.
Chocolate donuts? He's the only cure for the common criminal. Charles Bronson, Kinjite, Forbidden Subject, Monday at 8 on PHL 17.
I guess I'll have to try jelly.
When they were small, we had a little sports car.
And then they got bigger, so we had to get a four-door.
So we leased a new Volkswagen Jetta, $199 a month. Nice, huh? The German-engineered front-wheel drive Jetta comes with rack and pinion steering, daytime running lights, dual airbags. It's a great driving car.
It's got a big back seat.
And a huge trunk.
Weimaraners come from Germany.
Maybe that's why they like driving so much.
On the road of life, there are passengers and there are drivers.
Had they only sampled its precise handling, they might have named it Import Car of the Day. Had they just heard its quiet cabin, they might have named it Import Car of the Week. And had they merely felt its powerful engine, they might have named it Import Car of the Month. But they experienced all of the Nissan Maxima and named it Motor Trend's Import Car of the Year. Lease the Nissan Maxima GXE with 0 down and $299 a month for 36 months.
I can get somebody hundreds of miles away who's not a baseball fan or only a casual fan to be really motivated by anything I say. You know, I want people like me to come here and feel, wow, one of us is in charge. You know, them to bring the message back. It's elevating the experience of the person who feels it. Period. They're the one that's going to go and bring back their children or grandchildren, because. That's how that's going to happen, so that when the next generation comes along and this child says, you know, my parents took me here and it was great, I want to take my kids here. It was a wonderful experience.
That's the curator for the Hall of Fame. That is Ted Spencer. And Michael, you had an opportunity to spend some time with him. Rich, you did as well, right? He took you around the hall. By the way, if you noticed, here in the middle now is the Honorable Mayor of Philadelphia, Ed Rendell, joining us here on the program today. Big day for Philadelphia, is it not?
It sure is. You should be here. This town is festooned with red, Phillies red, and all you see is people from Philadelphia. And we came up in such numbers that yesterday they set an all-time attendance record for the Hall of Fame.
8,700, I think it was?
All-time attendance record for the building, and it's all Philadelphia.
Well, when you walk through town, now, Mike and Rich, it's hard for them to walk through town right now, but when you walk through town, all you see is Phillies caps, Phillies jerseys,
unbelievable,
T-shirts, and that's what you're going to see, both of you, when you're on the podium today. You're prepared for that. I mean, that's what probably the emotion's going to overtake you guys when you're up there. What do you think, Mike?
Is it? It's starting on me already. Yes, I am prepared and flattered to know. I've heard the rumors, and people were sitting up last night out in the field. It's almost going to be like a Woodstock scene out here at the induction. And I'm prepared to look out there and see a ton of red. I really am. And I'm so happy that it's going to be that way.
Now, Mayor told Rich during the break that the Mummers are on their way up, right?
Yeah, the Mummers are actually here. They're performing as we're taping. They're performing right in front of the hall itself on the street. Then they're going out to the field where the induction ceremony is held, and it'll be great. I have to say also, Neil, I'd never been in the Hall of Fame, and it's amazing how much Philly stuff there is in the Hall of Fame. Not just Richie and Mike at the top of the escalator, which is for the inductees, But the 1950 Phillies are featured as one of the specialty teams. It wasn't a dynasty, but sort of snuck in there. And the 70 Phillies, there's a whole section for the 70 Phillies. Phillies and Royals who dominated the middle of the 70s.
80.
No, but it's the 70s Phillies leading up to the 80 World Series.
Okay.
No, Michael, I know it's 1980.
By the way, we're going to see those displays a little later on in the program. You know, one thing, you've had the pleasure of working with this gentleman over here, Harry Callis, for a number of years. And is there a better broadcaster in the business today than Harry Callis?
Well, all I have to tell you is that if they would have let us have the guy that introduced us today, I would have had Harry, and I think Mike would have had Harry. We would have been very pleased to have Harry, but they're going to do it themselves.
Well, one thing that has made Harry Callis so famous and so popular in Philadelphia is his call of a home run anytime, any day, but particularly Michael Jack.
3-0 pitch. Swing long drive. There it is. Number 500. The career 500th home run for Michael Jack Schmidt. And the Phillies have regained the lead in Pittsburgh. 8-6. And the Phillies dugout comes swarming out to home plate.
Harry, we'll hear that forever, won't we?
I'll never forget it. It was the single most exciting moment in my broadcasting career because I've probably called every one of his home runs except for a handful, and so it was emotional.
Leading up to that moment, Mike, that was, I saw a whole videotape done on
That's right.
Leading up to your 500th.
Yeah, it was a wonderful day. You know, I've said many times that a better script couldn't have been written to hit a 500th home run, and Harry knows that, and Harry made it even more special. I know Harry knows how Richie and I feel about him, and we've reminisced many, many times about our careers and our years in Philly, and I know what their voices, especially Harry's, meant to my career. You know, he shaped that whole Michael Jack thing. You know, that's him. That's really nothing to do with me. He's the guy that he named a corporation that I have, and he named a lot of things in my life. I owe Harry more than anybody could imagine that I owe him. And to dress that home run up as much as he professionally did at that time is a real tribute. And like we've all just said, that home run will live forever in Philadelphia, hopefully.
Well, you know, Mr. Mayor, Philadelphia last year had Lefty here, so it's been back-to-back years for Philadelphia, and I'll tell you, you don't see that very often.
Well, Neil, you know what's a good trivia question? Who do you think, I know the answer to this, who do you think the next member of the Phillies organization is to get into the Hall of Fame?
Well, I'm looking at the gentleman.
He's here with us right now. He's here with us right now. Harry will be the next member of the Philly.
We're hoping soon. But last year it was Lefty's year, and one thing that Steve Carlton had plans to be here, but a card show signing kept him prior to the show a little longer than we had hoped. So we spoke to him last night, and he has some words of encouragement and some thoughts for Mike and for Rich.
Anytime you're addressing people that you've had a long-time relationship with, you know, there's no. I told Schmidt about this, you know, when they retired his uniform. Schmidt, stay away from the emotional stuff. I said, I told Richie, I said, Richie, you can't do it. Don't even get into those issues now, because I knew better, you know, because I know I'm emotional anyway, so I kept it upbeat and, you know, maybe didn't sound sincere or whatever, but I mean, if I were to go the other way, you'd never get through it, you know. Once the tears start, it's over with, you know, so. But Richie, I told Richie, I said, Scooter tried it last. Yeah, I was sitting right here, and he's over at the podium. He's got a little card that says fans on it, you know, what he wanted to say to the fans. And you know, after he'd been halfway through his thing, he said, and you fans, and as soon as he said it, he went, you know, he got, I mean, just not like that, he got overwhelmed. He took the card and threw it away. You can't do it. You'll never get through it, you know, so when you look out there, I'll tell you, you feel it, you know, so it's going to be a test.
You know, last night when talking to him, he said last night when talking to him, he's all calm and cool and collected this year, and he said, boy, this is great. You know, but he said those guys, they're feeling it right about now.
You know, the guy who gave us some advice is this guy right here. What's it like to look out at a mass of, you know, 15, 20, 30,000 people and talk to them?
Well,
tell us.
They all hate you. Just kidding. No, I will tell you, you look at someone in the first row and just lock in on that person, let it go. And, you know, I think the important thing is, I don't necessarily think you should stay away from emotions, because Everyone knows this is an emotional moment for you, and it doesn't make you less of a person. If you break down, I think it shows that you really felt your experience, and I wouldn't stay away. Again, I don't mean that.
I surely don't plan, and I know Richie probably doesn't, on trying to stay away from it. My problem is once it starts, I can't talk.
Well, I know. Well, you know, there's no time limit.
Well,
There's
last weekend, Richie, you got honored at the vet, and you said you got a little more choked up than you thought you would.
And it surprised me because it wasn't supposed to be that way. But when, you know, you look up there and all those people who have supported you for so many years, and then you have your family there, and I don't know what happens, but I got all choked up and didn't plan it, didn't understand it, but it happened.
Well, Mr. Mayor, we want to thank you for stopping by, and this is a great moment for Philadelphia. Have a good time today.
Rich, congratulations.
Good to see you, Eddie.
Michael?
Thanks, Ed.
Congratulations. You both were tremendous credits to our city.
Thanks for coming.
As we head to break, take a look at the other gentleman in this fine portrait that is at the Hall of Fame. Leon Day, pitcher in the Negro Leagues in the 30s and 40s, led to the Hall of Fame in March, died 6 days later. Vic Willis, 13-year career in the late 1800s. William Hobart, who helped found the National League in 1876. Those are this year's inductees. We'll be back in a moment.
We asked Toyota Camry owners. And guess what they said?
Certainly. Oh, yeah.
In fact, 95% of Camry owners said yes, they'd buy another one. As for the rest of you, right now you can lease a Camry for just $199 a month. $199 a month. Or get 2.9% financing when you buy Camry. So, would you buy a new Camry too?
Certainly. Oh, yeah. For sure.
Choice cars, choice deals, only at your Toyota dealer now.
First, I figured I'd forgotten where I'd parked. And then I knew. I called my husband, the police, and Ken, my nationwide insurance agent.
Willie was upset. You don't get your car stolen every day.
2 days later, my car showed up.
Broken windows, scratches, I mean, nothing major.
It wasn't a pretty sight, but the check sure was. Ken got it to me the next day.
Helping someone, it's a good feeling. That's why I'm a nationwide agent.
Nationwide is on your side.
Every year, thousands of accidents occur because drivers momentarily take their eyes off the road. To help prevent this, our engineers have spent countless hours perfecting the Nissan Maxima's ergonomics. Shapes have been scrutinized, and key buttons have been sculpted to be recognized by touch alone. At Nissan, the slightest detail counts, because on the road, the slightest second counts. Lease the Nissan Maxima GXE with 0 down and $299 a month for 36 months.
When they see this particular artifact, they remember the event. They see it in terms of their own life. You know, oh, I was in grammar school then, or that was the year I did this, or did that. There's real baseball fans do that. They relate points in their life to what they experienced with the game, and you'll see that. You'll see the parents or grandparents interacting with their children, grandchildren, explaining, you know, things about their life. You know, I remember when this happened, or saying, "Did you know that this guy could do that? This guy did do that." You know, it's a neat thing. It shows how baseball does bind the generations.
Well, once again, that was the curator for the Baseball Hall of Fame here in Cooperstown. That is Ted Spencer. I'm Neil Hartman. Harry Callis, along with the newest inductees into the Shrine later today, Mike Schmidt and Rich Ashburn. Whiz Kids, 1950s. Good time, huh?
Great time. I mean, we were all young, doing what we wanted to do. We were winning. Hey, that's the best of the whole operation in baseball. That's what you try to do, is win. And I don't know why we didn't win a pennant after that, because we were so young at the time. I was 20, 21, 22. Robin Roberts was 24. Kurt Simmons was about 21. Granny Hamner, Dell Ennis, Dick Sisler. Great days. Never forget them.
You know, Harry, this gentleman right here, for years, and the Veterans Committee elected him to the Hall of Fame, but for years, everybody was making the argument in Philadelphia that he deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. And he played in an era where there were so many quality center fielders, and that obviously hurt Whitey.
Willie, Mickey, and the Duke, but he was the quintessential leadoff man. I think maybe even the writers who vote don't consider defense. How about him in the record books for putouts? Like most years leading the league in putouts. And A ball hawk, did everything a leadoff man could do. His on-base career, on-base percentage, 20 points higher than Pete Rose, and there's no question that he deserved to be in a long time ago, but we're thrilled that it's now anyhow.
Now, Mike, he was a broadcaster during your career. Did you ever sit down and talk with Rich and say, hey, you know, talk about that?
How could I help him?
I don't know. In the beginning, I think in the early years, Rich, I think you and I were a little bit adversarial when it came to hitting. In the early days, when I was a young guy, well, I don't know that.
I believe that was all on your part, not mine. You know.
What I'm saying is, I think you were more from that school of don't try to think and hit. Just, you know, let it happen. And I was more from that school of, hey, I got to think through this whole thing, every pitch. And you were, as I remember,
I know what you're getting at. Yeah, we did talk about that.
Right.
But you know, when the pitcher lets go of the ball and it gets to the plate, that's 2/5 of a second, Mike. What are you going to think about?
My whole life flashes before me. But as years went on, I think we became a lot closer as friends, gin buddies on the airplanes. We got to know each other a lot more. We played a lot of golf together, and you know, the thing that you may have left out, you didn't leave it out, but Richie had more hits than anybody in the 50s.
That's
Most hits
exactly
in the decade of the 50s. Can you imagine nowadays?
Ball players in the 50s, though.
Can you imagine nowadays if you had the most hits in the decade of the 80s or the decade of the 70s? You'd be a lock for the Hall of Fame, would you not?
Well, you know, one thing I want to bring in here, because Harry and I were talking about this before the show, you took such an intensity, and you brought this up just a couple minutes ago, intensity to the ballpark. But Harry, off the field, you got to know Michael.
You just talked about gin rummy. We used to have gin rummy card games on the plane and golf, and you seem so much more relaxed and happy and having a good time in those situations, taking me to try to mix and match my shirts and ties. I'm sorry you failed, obviously, but that sort of thing, you seem to have a good time doing that.
Yeah, I had a wonderful time. I love life, and as the guys I think that get to know me, people that know me behind the scenes probably understand that. I've fought that image thing my whole life in the city of Philadelphia, and I know that a lot of it is my fault. It's the perception that people get of me, but I was just that way at the ballpark, on the field. You know, I had that tendency to play with those blinders on and maybe not to be as outgoing and be as fun of a guy for the fans to watch. My style was just not the style that I needed to have to win the fans of Philadelphia over. I'm sorry about that. I can't change it. I was always myself, you know, but it was probably the one thing in my career that I wish might have been different. The way that I went about it, I wish might have been a little different.
Well, when you went to the ballpark, you were all business. I mean, you got there and you were preparing for the game.
Isn't there anybody like that now?
Yeah.
I mean, am I the only guy that was like that?
They still take time, you know, to joke and laugh in the clubhouse and that sort of thing. But, I mean, you were very intense in preparation for the game.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's continue talking with Mike Schmidt and also Rich Ashburn just a couple of hours before they are enshrined into the Baseball Hall of Fame. We are in Cooperstown, New York. This is induction weekend, and we will continue on the pregame show.
We asked Toyota Corolla owners. You bet they were. Certainly. Oh, yeah. 95% of Corolla owners are satisfied with their Corolla. As for the rest of you, now you can save up to $1,300 with incentives and option savings when you buy Corolla. Or lease Corolla for a low $189 a month. $189 a month. So, you want to drive Corolla too? Certainly. Choice cars, choice deals. Only at your Toyota dealer now.
Introducing the lineup of Phillies Legends Photo Ball baseballs. Play ball! Collect all 5 at Burger King for only $2.99 each. Here's the play-by-play on how. Slide into your participating Burger King restaurant. Buy any large sandwich value meal. Run home with one Phillies Hall of Fame legend. Let's replay, slide, buy, score! Collect a different ball each week for just $2.99. Only at Burger King and only for a limited time. Get your burger's worth. What a steal.
When they were small, we had a little sports car.
But then they got bigger, so we had to get a 4-door.
So we leased a new Volkswagen Jetta, $199 a month. Nice, huh? The German-engineered front-wheel drive Jetta comes with rack and pinion steering, daytime running lights, dual airbags. It's a great driving car.
It's got a big back seat.
And a huge trunk.
Weimaraners come from Germany.
Maybe that's why they like driving so much.
On the road of life, there are passengers and there are drivers.
Welcome back to the pregame show in Cooperstown, New York. That is the 1980 display at the Hall of Fame. You see Pete Rose's jersey and also Mike Schmidt's bats and Lefty's jersey as well. 1980. What a year that was, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, for all of us. For all of us. I'm sure you have a ring on right there, don't you?
Yeah.
Mine's up in the room.
And it was the 80 was a culmination. We had been to the playoffs for so many years before that 80 was like the culmination of finally getting over the hump and through the National League Championship Series and into the World Series. So
that's for sure. The pressure was on not to let it happen again in the playoffs, and we tried, didn't we? We surely tried.
That series of Houston was unbelievable.
You know, earlier we talked about great center fielders during your era. How about third basemen? Michael Jack, any doubt that he's the best?
There's some great ones that I've seen. I've been around a lot longer than Mike, but yeah, there was Eddie Matthews, of course, Brooks Robinson. I think Ron Santo was as good a third baseman as I've seen, you know, hitting and fielding. But I've told this to Mike. He's the best all-around that I've seen. I told him one time that I thought Eddie Matthews was a better hitter, and he was shocked by that. But all around, fielding and hitting combined, no question, Mike.
Best range to his left of any third baseman I've ever seen. He went to his left so well that it enabled Larry Bowa to cheat towards second base, and hence a lot of double plays with the best range to his left I ever saw.
How about all the diving, Mike? The way you're diving for balls.
I just love the dive. You know?
Hey,
every time a ball was hit, I loved the dive for it.
He was great on those foul pops down the left field line too. Long run near the stands, reaching out and plucking them out of the air.
I might have dove more if we weren't playing on that AstroTurf. There was something about the AstroTurf that didn't look so inviting to dive on. You remember the years when we played in Philly, it wasn't too spongy. There were a lot of years there where it was pretty hard.
Like cement.
I don't know. It was something, you know, I had shoulder separation early in my career, my left shoulder, when I first came up in '72. In fact, had to stay in Florida. And when I dove for a ball, if I would ever land like this, my shoulder would be knocked out of socket. And I was always protective of my shoulder, and I think that was one reason that I was a little leery to dive for a ball.
Well, I'll tell you what, one great third baseman, no question, was Brooks Robinson, but the mantle was then handed over to Mike Schmidt. Take a look at this piece.
Robinson was the benchmark, the third baseman, you know, during that period. But Mike brought it to another level. Not only could play the game in the field, but boy, he could just flat out hit. But he didn't embarrass anybody in the field as well. I mean, he was just very well-rounded. Period. You know, he was about as perfect as you can get at a position, knowing that you make errors and you make mistakes, and but that he played it with a great deal of dignity and pride, and he inherited the mantle of Brooks Robinson as the major league, premier third baseman. And wore it well until it was time to pass it on.
On the Wayans brothers, Marlon drags Sean into the taxi business.
Introducing Afro Pick You Up.
Now they're facing the mean streets.
We don't have one customer. That's because we ain't go with a black Marlon wearing Harlem. Where you want to go, Zimbabwe?
The Wayans brothers. Then, on Unhappily Ever After, there's a hunk in the house. A man of many conquests.
Most of the women in this neighborhood.
Really?
Wednesdays beginning at 9 on PHL 17.
Had they only sampled its precise handling, they might have named Import Car of the Day. Had they just heard its quiet cabin, they might have named it Import Car of the Week. And had they merely felt its powerful engine, they might have named it Import Car of the Month. But they experienced all of the Nissan Maxima and named it Motor Trend's Import Car of the Year. Lease the Nissan Maxima GXE with 0 down and $299 a month for 36 months.
Know which car is the best? Toyota Tercel. Not surprising, 79% of Tercels ever sold are still on the road. Right now, with option savings and cash back, you could save up to $1,250 on this number. And get 2.9% financing or low lease payments on Tercel. So, what car are you going to drive?
Tercel all the way.
Choice cars, choice deals. Only at your Toyota dealer now.
On Renegade, Reno's after a deadly black belt on the loose.
He has this power. He's gonna kill me.
Tonight at 7 on PHL 17.
It was a different time. Everybody in America had their part to play, and the baseball players were no different. Some guys gave up their careers for it. They went into the war in their prime, and by the time the war was over, their prime was left in the South Pacific, you know, or in Europe somewhere. It was a great sacrifice, and not as obvious as the sacrifice made, you know, by people who didn't come back at all. But it also showed how baseball, like all elements of the country, you know, pulled together. Between the major leagues and the Negro leagues, we have a list of over 530 players who went to war. That's a lot of guys. It's an incredible amount of people not doing what they want to do.
Well, that is curator for the Baseball Hall of Fame, Ted Spencer, once again, and we are joined by former teammate of yours, Robin Roberts, 1976 inductee into the Baseball Hall of Fame. He, too, just fresh off the golf course here at the Otastago Hotel. Here's a gentleman that won six straight years, 20 wins or more. A terrific accomplishment, and again, elected into the Hall of Fame in 1976. And there's a look at one of your baseball cards from the 1950s.
I think I got about 28 of them out there, so if anyone wants to get them. I don't have any of them. I'm not into those cards too much yet.
Well, talk about your friend right here to my left, Rich Ashburn, and your days together. You spent a lot of time together in the 50s.
He was too short. He couldn't catch the balls that were going over the fence, but other than that, he did a good job.
What would you recommend, or what recommendations, or what have you told Whitey about this whole ceremony that he's about to embark later?
Well, I think you feel how fortunate you are. You know, when you play, you don't even think about the Hall of Fame. They may now because it's so publicized, but when I played, I never gave one thought to it. And when I left baseball, after about 3 or 4 years, then you realize that you might be involved with it. And it's a great thrill. You reflect on all the people that helped you and all your teammates and the hard work and the fun you had doing it. You know, baseball to us in that time, well, my dad was a coal miner, so I knew what work was just by observing, and I just couldn't imagine making a living playing baseball, and to be able to do it was just a fantastic dream, and I can't tell you how much I enjoyed it. And I think Whitey had the same attitude, and that's the way we played. We had fun, and we played hard, and it was really a good experience.
Let me just touch on what we saw just a moment ago about the baseball enlist that is a new display at the Hall of Fame here in Cooperstown. You came after that era, World War II.
Right, I was in the war. I was in the war, but I didn't miss any. I was in college, and then I went for a year, and then I went back to college, but I didn't miss any baseball because of the war.
What was that era like, though, Whitey, playing baseball right after the war?
I couldn't believe it. They drafted me, and the war was over. In fact, you should know this, Neil, that I told this to my children, that the day I was drafted, the Japanese surrendered.
Is that a true story?
That's a true story.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Did you know that, Harry?
Yes, I do that. I heard that story before.
But I didn't go in. I didn't go in.
So, Mr. Ashburn, no, we're done.
We give up.
But that was a time when baseball. You know, I saw the letter FDR wrote to Mountain Landis, the commissioner at the time, saying, "Hey, we need baseball." During that time, it was a time where baseball, I guess, people were looking for baseball to lift everyone's spirits.
Hey, Ted Williams went in twice. He went in also in the Korean War. I think he lost about 6 or 7 total years as a Navy pilot, and a good Navy pilot. He flew the old bent wings, they called them. But think of he lost 7 prime years in the service. Think of the home run records that he would have broken.
Unbelievable. Robin, talk a little bit about the years of waiting for Whitey to get into the Hall of Fame. Was there any doubt in your mind that he would get into the Hall?
Yeah, there always is. When the writers don't vote you in, which is the first
regular
way
process,
yeah,
right.
and up to the Veterans Administration, or veterans committee. Well, you got to. It's like running for political office. You got to get enough votes, you know, and once you up for so many years, and then they cut that back where they only put in one, and when that happens, that puts a lot of strain on a veteran guy getting in there. They only pick one a year. Before they could pick as many as got the votes, you know. But you know, it was just one of those things. Like Reese and Shane Deese and Rizzuto and the rest of those guys, their style was different, their contribution was different. They're often overlooked by writers. And when you're playing baseball, if you don't have those kind of guys, you're not going to win. It's like Boa was for years with the Phillies. Now, Boa is not even considered for the Hall of Fame, you know. And the thing about him is those that watch the Phillies don't know what an important part Larry was of that ball club, but he's not even considered for the Hall of Fame.
We will continue our discussion. The Hall of Famers are all here in Cooperstown. Robin Roberts joining the two newest inductees. Later today, they'll be enshrined in that building at the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown.
Nobody does it like you, the way that you do. Nobody's got the power to please me. Nobody does it like you, puts it all together better to make it easy. Nobody does it like you, Hoover. Nobody does it like you.
For 4 days and nights this August, the grounds at the Core State Spectrum will be turned into a festival-like atmosphere. This second annual barbecue extravaganza features the finest local and national restaurants. Every evening features a nationally known act and a different musical theme. An exciting variety of children's games, sports activities, food, and music will make this a weekend you won't forget. Bud Ice Light's Backyard Barbecue and Music Festival, August 3rd through the 6th. You don't want to miss it.
Last Saturday, my wife Lisa and I went shopping. You know, we're not paying any attention. That's when it hit me. What would happen to our family if Lisa weren't around anymore?
Well, recently I've been trying to get Dave and Lisa to review their life insurance.
We then called Kim. She's our nationwide insurance agent.
Lisa now has the life insurance she needs.
Sometimes I think about what almost happened. But thanks to Kim, I don't worry about what might happen.
Nationwide is on your side.
We did have Mike and Richie up here earlier this spring, and the same thing has happened with other inductees in the past. I think all of a sudden they realize that what a big part of American history they've been involved in. And Mike himself stopped me right in the middle of the tour and said, I just never realized how much history there is to this game.
You know, we were talking earlier, Mike, about how you walked around last night with your dad, and it's special when you walk through that building and you see all these things that bring back a lot of your past.
That's right, Neil. It's all about family. You know, fathers, sons, and then the sons, and then the next generation. We were in the World Series display last night, and we came upon a World Series program, 1961, Reds, Yankees. I'm looking at it and I go, Dad, we were there. You know, and my dad is a quiet guy, and there we were reminiscing, father, son, about a little display in the Hall of Fame. It's a wonderful place. Baseball needs to do more here and be here more often. Baseball players the current day players ought to have to come through here before they play their first game. They really should. I should have had to early in my career. We played that game here in '76, but never had an appreciation for the place like I have now. What history, it really needs to be seen by the current players.
Wadey, how about your tour through the Hall of Fame?
Well, I've been through it. I've been up here 2 or 3 times before, and it was really impressive. You know, all these guys that are in the Hall of Fame now and who keep coming up here, I've played either with or against. Well, Robin's the only one I played with. Well, I played with Ernie Banks, too, and Billy Williams, but it's so impressive to know that you have, you know, been through this. I don't think, Robin made a good point. You don't realize it at the time. You don't even think about it at the time. I didn't think about it either. But this is an awesome weekend in a great little village.
Robin, they're just about ready to go through it. What was it like for you when you got up to that podium to accept the award?
It's unbelievable. You can't explain it. It's kind of like, any kind of a thing, the emotion connected with it, how you're going to react, you don't know. I went in behind Bob Lemon, and Bob was so composed and gave such a beautiful speech. In fact, we were rained out at the time. We were rained and had to come inside the Otasaka to have the thing. But Bob was so good, I couldn't hardly do much other than to say Bob's said a lot of things that I would love to have said, and I agree. It's like Mantle saying I agree with what Casey said. I almost was in the same situation, but it's very emotional. My parents were both gone before I went in, so that emotion wasn't there, but it would be difficult.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's just a couple of hours away. Whitey, enjoy yourself. We thank you for coming by. Robin Roberts as well, thank you. Michael Jack, enjoy yourself today, and it's going to be special, isn't it, Harry?
It is a special day. It really is.
Well, for all three of these living legends right here, and for another living legend who we look forward to going into the Hall of Fame soon, and we'll look forward to that as well. I'm Neil Hartman. For everybody here at the Otasaka Hotel in Cooperstown, New York, we want to thank you for joining us on the pregame show.
Cooperstown, New York, baseball's Hall of Fame accepts 6 more greats today. One of them, Leon Day, died just after learning he would enter the Hall. He threw a no-hitter on opening day in 1946, a few months after serving his country in World War II. Philly Richie Ashburn enters the Hall. His career average was .308, and he led the National League in batting twice. One of only 5 players to record 500 putouts in a season, and he did it 4 times. And another Philly, Mike Schmidt, a 3-time most valuable player, enters in his first year of eligibility. Schmidt won 10 Golden Gloves and is 7th on the all-time home run list. You're looking live now at a picture from Cooperstown. That's where the Hall of Fame induction ceremonies are to begin shortly here on ESPN2. Also entering the Hall today, Vic Willis, a turn-of-the-century pitcher. He had 45 complete games in 1902. William Holbert, who was a key player in the founding of the National League in 1876. And Bob Wolf will enter the broadcasters wing of the Hall of Fame. He called Don Larson's perfect game. 20,000 people expected, a lot of them from Philadelphia. 200 buses rolled in from Philly to support their players entering the Hall of Fame. The day from Cooperstown on ESPN2. Welcome, I'm Kenny Mayne. It begins now, and we sent it out to Paul Meyer. He's the president of the Baseball Writers Association. He'll introduce the inductees.
Hello? I'm sorry I'm not Pete. I'll have to do. Good afternoon and welcome to baseball's 56th Hall of Fame induction ceremony. My name is Paul Meyer. I'm the baseball writer at the Post-Gazette in Pittsburgh, and I'm also the president of the Baseball Writers Association of America. Thank you. One of our organization's privileges is to vote former players into the Hall of Fame. However, this year we've had another activity. Most of the 800 members are worried and concerned about the state of the game. Yesterday, my father, who I'm thrilled to have here with me this weekend, and I went through the Hall of Fame, and he told me that he and his friends were worried about baseball back in the 1930s, too. They worried about their baseball. Every time they knocked the cover loose, they had to get some friction tape and fix it so they could play the next day. They were always able to fix their baseball and continue to play. Hopefully what transpires here over the next couple of hours will provide some tape for baseball to continue to try to fix itself and restore itself to the level that it so richly deserves. Now, let's go on with the important people. Our leadoff hitter today is George Grand, a broadcaster with the Cincinnati Reds and the MC of this ceremony since 1980. George?
Wow. Now I know what Moses looked like when he looked at the Red Sea. This is a Philadelphia crowd today. It is my great honor and pleasure to introduce you to this year's class of returning Hall of Famers on a day where we will also honor one of the greatest broadcasters in my profession that has covered the game of baseball, Bob Wolf. We'll also honor the memory of National League founder William Hurlburt, the outstanding 22-year career of Vic Willis, and the memory of one of the most complete ball players that ever played the game, Leon Day. And there are a couple of other guys we're going to honor later on. Maybe one of the greatest center fielders ever, Richie Ashburn. And we're here to put our hands together for Schmidt, Mike Schmidt. Our first returning Hall of Famer broke into Major League Baseball in the year 1945. He played 18 years. And by the time it was all over, he would have over 50 years in the game of baseball because he's still wearing a St. Louis Cardinal uniform. The redhead, Red Shadings. 7 times a 300 hitter and led the National League in fielding percentage, played for the Cardinals, the Giants, and the Braves. Fred Haney probably said it as better than anybody. A former manager said, Red was a true leader. He didn't give pep talks. He didn't talk a lot. All he did was show up, play second base better than anybody, and get the big hits when we needed it. Red Shadings. Red, of course, got his nickname from the carrot top on top of his head. Our next Hall of Famer got his nickname for some hair he had too, but it was right over here, the handlebar mustache, Raleigh Fingers. He set the record with 341 saves. In 1981, the American League Most Valuable Player and Cy Young Award winner. He intimidated hitters with that sinking fastball, Raleigh Fingers. While he intimidated with the arm, our next Hall of Famer intimidated by the way he ran the base pass, and he ran his way all the way to the Hall of Fame, the great Lou Brock. He made running a science, and while his career wound up, he had 938 stolen bases and over 3,000 hits. Lou Brock, the only man in the Cardinal uniform and the first man to have an honor named after him, the Stolen Base Award, now the Lou Brock Award. From 65 to 75, nobody stole more bases than Lou. And in the decade of the 60s, no pitcher won more games than this man, the man with the big, high leg kick, Juan Marichal, the Dominican dandy. 16 years, 243 wins, 6 times a 20-game winner, and a 10-time All-Star. He made his Major League debut 35 years ago this month. In fact, he pitched a one-hitter against the Phils. He retired the first 19. Juan Marichal. The one thing Juan always was striving for as a San Francisco Giants pitcher and was so hard to get was a world championship for the Giants. Well, this man, when his career wrapped up, had 10 world championships in his pocket. It is number 8, Yogi Berra. 3 times the American League Most Valuable Player, 15 straight All-Star appearances, 10 World Series championships, more games, more hits than anyone in World Series history. Yogi. Yogi, of course, made his name with one team, the Yankees. Our next Hall of Famer is the only man to play over 200 games with each of 5 different teams, one of the best packages at third base ever, George Kell. 9 times a 300 hitter, 7 times he led the American League in fielding percentage. The A's, the Tigers, the Red Sox, the White Sox, and the Orioles all were graced to have this man playing third base for him, the great George Kell. George was a 300 hitter 9 times. Our next Hall of Famer hit 30 or more home runs 9 different times. Eddie Matthews. The 7th man to hit 500 home runs. He wound up with 512. In fact, when Eddie hit number 500, he hit it off. Juan Marichal. Eddie Matthews. Our next Hall of Famer hit his first ever home run off Billy Heff. That was a few years ago. In fact, it's an anniversary. 40 years ago did this man do it. And when he finished, he had a total home run count of 573 round trippers. The killer, Harmon Killebrew. 22-year career, 6 times he led the American League in home runs. In 1969, the killer, the most valuable player in the American League, Harmon Killebrew. Harmon, of course, won games with the big hit. This man won games with the little hit. Maybe the best bunter in the history of baseball. Who could it be? Scooter, Phil Rizzuto. The 1950 American League most valuable player. He hit 324 and had 200 hits. And just like Red Shandings, a 50-year veteran. He's been with the Yankees for 50 years as a player and a broadcaster. The Scooter. Scooter has spent over 50 years with the Yankees. This man umpired in 5 different decades. One of the most respected umpires ever, Al Barlick. 27 years in the major leagues in his 5 decades of umpiring. Leo DeRocher probably said it is better than anybody. I'd be happier if all my players hustle like umpire Al Barlick. Leo, of course, also said a few things about our next Hall of Famer because this guy beat him a whole lot of times, but there was nothing unique about that because this man beat everybody a whole lot of times. A left-handed pitcher who's the winningest left-hander in the history of the game. Spiny, Warren Spahn. 363 victories, 13 times 20 wins. And the 1957 Cy Young Award winner. You deserve it, Spiny. After 21 years, Spiny still held the National League records for innings pitched after his career. Warren Spahn. Our next Hall of Famer still holds the record, too. The most home runs by a second baseman. It is Little Joe, Joe Morgan. 266 home runs. 1975 and 76 most valuable player and 5 Gold Gloves. They may have called him Little Joe, but by the time a game ended, he was usually the biggest man on the field. Joe Morgan. Joe seemed to get better at World Series time each and every year with the big red machine of the Cincinnati Reds. This man also got better every time we got to the World Series. As a pitcher, he set marks with 10 World Series victories and once pitched over 33 innings consecutively of perfect baseball, of no-hit baseball in the World Series. He can be only one person. They call him the chairman of the board. Who is it? Whitey Ford. He led the American League in wins 3 times, and he was a part of 11 Yankee pennant winners. When you say only, it applies to our next Hall of Famer. He is the only pitcher ever to win back-to-back most valuable player awards. It is Prince Hal Newhouser. The MVP awards came in 44 and 45. 17 years as a pitcher, 15 in Detroit. By the time his career wound up, he had over 200 victories. Hal Newhouser. The nickname for Hal was Prince Hal, and this man is just a prince of a man, both on the field and off the field. We're talking about Monty Irvin. He won 2 Negro League batting titles in 41 and 46. And in 1951, in the World Series with the Giants, he hit .458. When Monty finally made it to the major leagues, some say he was past his prime. He was 30 years of age. when this next Hall of Famer made it to the major leagues. He was only 18 and he was an infielder. By the time he wrapped up his career, he would be a Hall of Fame pitcher. We're talking about Bob Lemon. 7 times in 9 years, he won 20 games in 48 through 56. And in 54, he teamed with Bob Feller, Early Wynn, Mike Garcia to pace the Indians to the championship of the American League. And who knows, maybe in 95, the Indians are heading back to that. Bob Lemon. As a pitcher, Bob Lemon still holds a number of fielding records. He was an outstanding defensive pitcher. As a third baseman, this guy holds just about every record in the book. They called him the vacuum cleaner. They called him Hoover. Whatever you called him, he was the best in the business with the glove. From Baltimore, Brooks Robinson. The American League Most Valuable Player in 64, a World Series MVP in 70, 16 straight gold gloves. That's every year from 60 to 75, and he had an unforgettable World Series in 1970 against the Reds. Brooksy. Well, if Brooksy was Mr. Defense, this guy was Mr. Offense, and if you want to get even more specific, let's call him Mr. October, Reggie Jackson. Talk about World Series perfection. How about 3 home runs in a row and 4 home runs in a row over 2 ball games, 10 World Series home runs. The 1973 Most Valuable Player, Reggie Jackson. No one hit a ball farther than Reggie did, and no one threw a ball harder than our next Hall of Famer, Rapid Robert Bob Feller. 3 no-hitters, 12 one-hitters, and remember, he did that in spite of missing 4 seasons of military duty. In 46, his first year back after military duty, he struck out 348 from Van Meter, Iowa. Bob Feller. Well, Philly fans, I got somebody else for you to cheer for right now. Let's go back to 1950, the Wiz Kids year. This guy made 39 starts during the course of the year. He started 4 games in the last 8 days of the season. He won the final game of the season against the Dodgers to win the pennant. It is Robin Roberts. 19 years, 286 wins, 6 times 20 victories for Robbie. The 1952 National League Most Valuable Player, Robin Roberts. Robbie was a great pitcher, but, you know, he likes to talk about his hitting. He had 255 hits in his career. This next pitcher had 365 hits in his career and a whole bunch of home runs. One of the best hitting pitchers, one of the toughest competitors. Not a heart attack, not a slight stroke could prevent him from being here today. We're talking about Burley Early Wynn. 23 years, 300 victories, 5 times a 20 winner. In 1959, he won the Cy Young Award at the age of 39. Let's welcome back Earl Wynn, everybody. "40 years ago, our next Hall of Famer was honored by a birthday party. That's not odd, but the fact was, it was at Ebbets Field in Brooklyn. They turned off the lights in the ballpark. Everybody brought candles because they loved this guy. The way he played the game, the heart and soul, and so much of the pulse of the Brooklyn Dodgers. Pee Wee Reese. The shortstop on 7 Dodger pennant winners. The little colonel from Louisville, one of the most inspirational ball players ever. Pee Wee Reese. Pee Wee was the captain of the Dodgers, and of course he was so instrumental in bringing Jackie Robinson along during a very difficult time. This man played like a captain every time he took the baseball field, no matter what team he was playing for. We're talking about Eno's Country Slaughter. 10 years, he hit 300 plus. And if you want to say something about Enos, you say he really set the standard for the world hustle on the game of baseball and on the field. Eno's Country Slaughter. Let's go back 10 years, go to Yankee Stadium. 1985 was the year. It was Phil Rizzuto Day at Yankee Stadium. This guy turned it into Tom Seaver Day, too, because he won his 300th game. Tom Seaver. 20 years, 311 victories, 200 or more strikeouts 10 times. The Rookie of the Year in '67 and a 3-time Cy Young Award winner. Tom Terrific, Tom Seaver. Tom has been voted, of course, the greatest Met. This man in 1947 was voted as the greatest living second baseman. Ted Williams called him our captain, our silent captain. One of the best second basemen offensively and defensively ever to play the game, Bobby Doerr. 100 runs batted in 6 times. He had 120 in 1950. Once handled over 400 chances without an error, Bobby Doerr. Our next Hall of Famer grew up in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. His idol was Mickey Mantle. He hit like Mickey, but boy, nobody could catch behind the plate like this guy. J.B. Johnny Bench, the Rookie of the Year in '68, a 2-time most valuable player and 10 times a Gold Glove winner. Johnny Bench. If they ever made a training film about catching, Johnny Bench would be the perfect person because he was so perfect behind the plate. If they ever made a VCR about how to do it on the mound as a right-hand pitcher with perfect mechanics, how about this guy from the Baltimore Orioles, Jim Palmer. 268 wins, 8 times 20 wins, 3-time a Cy Young Award winner. 19 years, his ERA was 2.86. You can sit wherever you want to sit, Jimbo. You got to sit next to the catcher. Jim Palmer won 3 Cy Young Awards. Our next Hall of Famer is the only man to win 4 of those. Who could he be? Lefty Steve Carlton. 329 wins. Second only to Spahn. Over 4,000 strikeouts. Second only to Nolan Ryan. Lefty Steve Carlton. When Steve Carlton played, no one asked who's pitching tonight and got a name. They just got Lefty. And he was the only guy that you could look at and just say Lefty and you knew who it was. Well, I tell you, back in the 50s and 60s, you only had to say 2 words. You knew who this guy was. The man, Stan, the man, Musial. 22 years with the Cardinals, 18 times a 300 hitter, 7 National League batting titles, and he still got the swing. Stan the Man, 24 times an All-Star, and he had some big All-Star hits, some home runs. In '51, he had 2 of them. He had the game winner in the 12th inning in '55. Well, our next Hall of Famer is the only man to hit home runs in 3 consecutive All-Star games, one of the greatest home run hitters of all times. The man from Pittsburgh, the man who's now an outstanding broadcaster on WOR with the Mets, Ralph Kiner. He tied or led the National League in home runs 7 straight years from 46 to 52. Ladies and gentlemen, Ralph Kiner. We honor these men today for their dreams, their perseverance, their accomplishments, and they honor us today by returning to Cooperstown. They honor us by returning to a very special place, a place where you can still hear, if you listen, the echoes of the game of baseball. You can still appreciate the stars of today, and where all of us, as owners, players, fans, and Hall of Famers, have an obligation to keep this game healthy and make the game whole again. Let's take this energy and this podium and make the game whole again in 1995. Ladies and gentlemen, our 1995 returning Hall of Famers.
At this time, I'd like to introduce Father John Roos, pastor of St. Mary's Roman Catholic Church here in Cooperstown, who will give our invocation, and he'll be followed by...
Believe it or not, that wasn't the entire list of Hall of Fame members. We're stretching your cable dollar. ESPN2's live coverage of the Hall of Fame induction ceremonies continues right after this.
And meet the Carmel king of the castle, keeping his tight, CL Smooth, sipping on Sprite. It's the Mechadon, never swerving untitled, knowing commercial rap needs to be recycled. Collecting cans for Nick's picks, my latest LP. Now obey my thirst, son, precisely.
I got the knack to rock 'em steady, heating up a spot. The chocolate boy wonder making heavy.
Play the under cap game, and you have a 1 in 6 chance of winning another Sprite. You can also win cool NBA stuff. Not too useful if you're thirsty, handy if you plan on leaving the house.
This defensive coordinator's nightmare is brought to you by Thurman Thomas and his Righteous Low, who remind you that players are made in the preseason.
I know it sounds crazy, but yeah, I took the high endurance challenge from Old Spice because I didn't really think it could work better than my old deodorant, but it does. It evaporates less quickly, it also lasts longer, protects better. Try it. If you don't think it's the best, call 1-800-PROVE-IT, and they'll buy you a stick of yours. So if you still think every deodorant works the same, take the high endurance challenge from Old Spice. Because now you got proof. Guaranteed.
Too hot in your car? Don't sweat it. Now at Pep Boys, get a cool deal on our air conditioning quick check for just $19.99. Our AC quick check only $19.99. Come to Pep Boys now. Now at Pep Boys, get any 4 of our 35,000-mile all-season steel-belted tires at an incredible low $109. That's right, any 75 or 80 series, any 4, just $109 at Pep Boys now.
Some people love our crunchy tacos. Others, our soft tacos. Now Taco Bell introduces the double-decker taco with a taste big enough to bring the two sides together. The double-decker taco, just 79 cents.
Pro football. To some, it's just a game. But to ESPN, it's our business. We broadcast the battles. Now ESPN gives you the stories behind the lines. It's ESPN's Pro Football 95, the new Pro Football Bible. We put what we know down on paper. Team-by-team analysis, features, player profiles. Chris Berman leads an ESPN All-Star squad forecasting who'll soar and who'll dive in 95. Don't be left in the dust. Available at newsstands August 1st.
They say America lacks the skills it needs to stay competitive. They say our businesses won't have enough qualified workers for tomorrow's jobs. They don't know about ITT Technical Institute, where students get a hands-on head start towards some of today's fastest-growing technical careers. Find out more about ITT Tech by calling 1-800-942-0099. ITT Tech, it's an education that works.
If you're watching us, that means you also have access to ESPN, the original, the guys who made up those 4 letters. They're putting together a Hall of Fame extravaganza. Gary Miller, Roy Smalley will host at 6 Eastern tonight. Highlights from the ceremony, features on the inductees, plus an interview with the great Mike Schmidt. 6 Eastern on ESPN. But right here on ESPN2, we're bringing it to you live. The induction ceremonies continue right after this.
This car's just for now, to get me from here to there. But it's gotta last, so I'll take care of it until I get a real car. Yeah, a car with an engine you feel more than you hear. A car with more chrome than the sun knows what to do with. A car that other cars will look at and say, hey, I wish I looked like that car. Yeah, with this car I'll cruise by girls. Not just girls, but women. Not just women, but Michelle. Cause she'll think I'm in this car cause I want to impress girls like her. No, to impress her. But I'll just float past her in the perfumed air she walks on without even looking. Then she'll know I got this machine for me and me alone. She'll ride in daddy's car or a boyfriend's car, but it'll never be the same. Cause she'll always be thinking, I wonder what it'd be like to ride with him in his car. Yeah.
Excuse me, Matt? Could you give me a lift?
In Floyd's Knobs, Indiana, people drive from miles around just to see Don Ballard. Because when it comes to car repair, well, there's not much he can't fix. You see, Don's the type of guy who believes that doing a job right and saving money go hand in hand. So he begins each job with a trip to AutoZone. Sure, it's a 20-mile drive. There are other parts stores along the way. But for Don, when it comes to getting the right part for the right price, there's just no place better than AutoZone.
Pro football, to some, it's just a game. But to ESPN, it's our business. We broadcast the battles. Now ESPN gives you the stories behind the lines. It's ESPN's Pro Football 95, the new Pro Football Bible. We've put what we know down on paper. Team-by-team analysis, features, player profiles. Chris Berman leads an ESPN All-Star squad forecasting who'll soar and who'll dive in 95. Don't be left in the dust. Available at newsstands August 1st.
We're back live. Cooperstown Hall of Fame induction ceremonies. Right now, Ralph Kiner to introduce the Ford Frick winner. It's Bob Wolf.
Left field fence, as Harmon Killebrew will tell you, when he broke in there, right down the left field line, it was 402 feet. That was the shortest distance to left field. From there on, it went out. But Bob also was a part of that. And on his plaque, this is what it says. Bob Wolf is in his 50th consecutive year in sports television and his 57th year overall as a sportscaster. He began his professional career in 1939 on CBS Radio in Durham, North Carolina, while attending Duke University. He was a baseball player there, and he got injured, and he went to his coach, and he asked his coach, do you think I have a future in the major leagues, or should I stay in broadcasting? His coach says, stay in broadcasting. 4 years later, he branched out to do television as a sportscaster in the old Dumont network station with WTTG in Washington, D.C. In 1947, in addition to his radio assignments, Bob Wolf began the first of 19 years telecasting baseball, starting with the Washington Senators, working the TV booth for the Minnesota Twins, then followed. In Washington, Bob Wolf was the toast of the town in every way. For many years, Bob Wolf was baseball in Washington. He excelled locally, regionally, and then nationally. Bob Wolf first drew national baseball acclaim in 1956, broadcasting the All-Star Game in Washington. And he has several World Series assignments to his credit. He was signed in 1962 by NBC Television as their Game of the Week telecaster. Bob Wolf is currently in his 9th year as sports director anchor for News 12 in Long Island, New York. Bob, congratulations.
I'm the leadoff man on this most auspicious occasion. I'll be followed by 2 great hitters, as you know, with great glove men as well, and 2 great pitchers who will also salute a pioneer baseball man who will certainly lead us all to victory if need be. When I began broadcasting, if a broadcaster mentioned the word Brooklyn, he was sure to get a crowd reaction. Today, that right word would be Philadelphia. Now, I'm not used to seeing crowds like this. As Ralph said, I broadcast in Washington. Over 200 buses from Philadelphia, 2 cars started out from Washington, 1 broke down. Of course, there were a few big occasions. The presidential opener, for example, that was always significant. If the Senators won that game, they'd be in first place. Unfortunately, they then had to play the rest of the season. But winning or losing didn't concern me when I made my debut as Washington's first telecaster in 1946. I was in my 20s, I'd made it to the big leagues, and life couldn't be sweeter. Few thought then that television would amount to anything. Unfortunately, the man who hired me, Les Airy Sr., he did. There were only 2 TV stations in the country when I began, Washington and New York on the Dumont Network, and about 200 sets in Washington. Now, I didn't have one, but the audience was swelled by my wife, Jane, who would take the bus from our small apartment to the TV station to watch my flickering image. And in New York, my parents could go to Gimbel's basement and watch me on this new invention, and I'd take no credit for television's later boom. I had ample opportunity to learn, though. My first lesson, when the red light came on, it meant go. Red light meant go, not stop. Start talking. And I discovered that while voice and style and technique were important assets, preparation and content are the keys to survival. And there's something else that all of my distinguished Hall of Fame broadcast colleagues have in common: wearing well, game after game and year after year. I also learned that while I was enjoying each game and admiring its artistry, the way to a sponsor's heart was by selling his product. In those pioneer days, I was the commercial spokesman. And as I rarely smoked or drank, I was uniquely unqualified for that job. There were no filmed commercials in those days, no tape, just me live. I was given cigar smoking lessons, cigarette smoking lessons, and spent a month in spring training learning how to pour beer correctly with either hand. I was the first switch pourer in the major leagues. Now, the trick was to get a perfect head while looking into the camera and extolling the brew. And my career almost ended in a cascade of suds, which erupted volcano style in my first on-camera pour. It developed that practice beers I'd poured in Orlando had always been refrigerated at a colder temperature. When I went on TV in Washington, I'd been handed a warm bottle from the press room. At a post-game crisis meeting, my TV assistant, Joe DeMona, said this could be rectified to the refrigerator in the booth, assuring the right temperature, and that saved the day. But drinking the beer on camera every half inning brought about a new crisis. I was getting a little woozy from that. A decision was finally made: hire a commercial announcer, John Batchelder, so I could get through the games. Now, in those days, I was the sole play-by-play man on TV. There were no analysts, no color men. I also did the 15-minute pre- and post-game shows and welcomed John's assistants. John proved to be a great beer drinker every half inning, but in those days of doubleheaders, he started to stagger midway through the second game. I stood near him, ready to prop him up if he lurched forward. Now, one day I had a brilliant idea and brought John a bucket. John, I said, first tell the folks how good the beer is. Take a swig, hold it, and when the red light goes off, spit the beer in the bucket. The plan was great, but there was a problem with John's timing. The light was still on when John's steady stream went flying into the bucket, live and on camera, and our sponsor soon went flying too. To put this in verse, and I've been known to go from bad to verse, when the sponsor writes against your name, what he wants to hear is not who won or lost the game, but how you sold the beer. And that was TV in the early days. Of course, broadcasting the games was a daily delight. The Senators had some great players, including Hall of Famers and league leaders. Unfortunately, they just didn't have enough of them on any one team. They played well, but remarkably, the other clubs seemed to play a little better. Clark, Griffith, and Calvin had no other business to sustain them. Their business was baseball. They had to rely more on ingenuity than money, as did early TV. Now, some days when the games got a little one-sided, I just gave the score. I figured our viewers knew which team was winning, not the Senators, of course. I was able to dwell on the artistry of the game and our team personalities. Like the well-traveled Bobo Newsom, the burly pitcher who was the Felix Unger of the pitching mound. Opposing players used to torment Bobo by throwing scraps of paper on Bobo's domain. Bobo in the hot sun would dutifully pick up the litter to keep his well-manicured spot unsullied. He received my Neatness Award for MVP, Most Valuable Plot. And Rocky Bridges, he used to amaze me. He could keep a chaw of tobacco on each side of his mouth. Gave him wonderful balance, he said. Of course, when I interviewed Rocky about this, I just couldn't get too close. And Lou Berberet showed me something special the night he settled under a foul pop, threw away his catcher's mitt, and tried to catch the ball in his mask. Little ingenuity by a talented athlete. I caught a lot of records with the Senators, set against them, of course. Like Mickey Mantle's longest homer, we always kept the tape measure handy in Washington. Of course, Washington had some great sluggers, too, like Harmon Killebrew and Jim Lemon and Roy Sievers were members of my Singing Senators group, very harmonious team. I played the ukulele, and there were Mickey Vernon and Pete Runnels and countless more. Not to be overlooked was our biggest name player, Carton Edison Gillenwater. That's 23 letters. He was a big name in any league. Getting to Washington was another great break in my incredible good fortunes. I had taken my .583 high school batting average, my well-worn center fielder's glove to Duke University, intent on making the majors. When I was injured, as Ralph Kiner told you, the coach said, "Bob, if you want to make the majors, just keep talking." And I did. But more study time proved another great break and a valuable broadcasting lesson. I received a Phi Beta Kappa key, and it proved to me that success is possible with a little inspiration, but a great deal of perspiration. My sportscasting career has been based on that principle, preparation. I've given every assignment the best that's in me. And after Duke, I was commissioned as a supply corps officer sent to the Harvard Business School for training before going to Camp Perry, Virginia, to go overseas with the Seabees. And talk about great breaks at Camp Perry. I met Jane Louise Hoy, a beautiful Navy nurse. This was the greatest break of all. But I was on my way to an advanced base in the Solomons. Would Jane wait for me, and would I return? Jane said she'd wait, and I returned in what I considered miraculous fashion. Overseas, I discovered that the Harvard training was excellent for shipboard routine, but didn't apply to the mud and rain problems of advanced base supply. I wrote a book with before and after pictures explaining that Navy regulations and procedures relating to advanced bases should be revised, and sent the book off to the Navy Supply Department. Within 2 weeks, there were airmail orders to fly back immediately to Washington. I reported to Commander Hugh Hainsworth, received a letter of commendation, was assigned to rewrite the Navy Advanced Base Supply Regulations and its training books. And that's how I got to Washington. Jane and I were married at the Bethesda Naval Chapel, and here in Cooperstown, we're celebrating 50 great years together. While still in Navy uniform, in Washington, I began broadcasting sports on the Washington Post radio station, worked with excellent journalism model, their news director, my longtime friend Bill Gold. I added TV to my schedule at Dumont TV. A few years later, Paul Jonas, the mutual sports director, signed me for the football game of the week and later the baseball game of the day. And then came TV assignments on all the networks. In 1954, I also began a wonderful 36 years telecasting Madison Square Garden events. My schedule was bountiful, but I had one big ambition to fulfill, broadcasting the World Series. In 1956, the All-Star game was played in Washington, and the sponsor, Gillette, used me to represent the host city. I guess they liked my work, as they asked me to broadcast the 56 World Series too, and I had the great fortune to be at the mic for the Don Larson no-hitter. In the booth with me was Gillette's talented producer, a fine gentleman, longtime friend Joel Nixon, who is with us here today. And that World Series propelled me to 2 more series assignments. Then I joined Hall of Famer Joe Garagiola on the NBC TV Game of the Week, and what a thrill that was. I've also had the pleasure of broadcasting with Hall of Famers Jack Brickhouse and Chuck Thompson and Lindsey Nelson, who have heard and admired, I have heard and admired all those in the hall. In the past 9 years, I've been the sports anchor at News 12 Long Island. I've done baseball specials and play-by-play for Sports Channel New York, and that's been delightful too. Now, to make this journey even more complete, our family is with us today, including our son Bob, a former crafty pitching star at Princeton, our son Rick, an excellent second baseman who played on the Harvard World Series team and later in the Detroit organization, and our daughter Margie, a superb athlete herself and the original bat girl for her brothers. And with Bob's wife Susan and Rick's wife Patty and Margie's husband Tom Clark, with them are our all-star team of the future. We brought with us our 9 grandchildren, our all-star 9. And I know they're impressed because one even asked me for an autograph. The poet Ralph Humphreys wrote, "The crowd and the players are the same age always, but the man in the crowd is older every season." I've been the man in that crowd for many years, and the joy is always there. The sights and sounds of baseball, the strategies, the ups and downs, the talk, the kidding, the roar of the crowd, the pleasure is constant regardless of time. Baseball gives adults a chance to relive their youth on or off the field. Kids, not burdened by adulthood, don't seek a Bill of Rights. Kids don't have need for associations, agents, lawyers, committees, or representatives. They depend on adults to provide opportunities to play the game, watch the game, and afford the game. It's the obligation of adults to make this happen. It's accomplished best by grown-ups who still remain young at heart. At the Hall of Fame's first induction ceremonies, Babe Ruth reminded the spectators that kids are the backbone of the game, and Dave, they still are. I've been so fortunate in my life, in my career. My wish is that I've been able to contribute the same happiness to the lives of others they brought to mine. I've had the good fortune to be at the mic and make the play-by-play calls of some of sports' most memorable moments. But the call that's the greatest in my life was the call made to me by Ed Stack, the chairman of the Baseball Hall of Fame, with the historic news that I had been selected for the broadcast wing of the Baseball Hall of Fame. That, to me, is the greatest call of all. What does receiving this Hall of Fame honor mean to me? In one sentence, I feel as if I've gone to heaven before I died. I close with those words I've repeated countless times during my career. Let's play ball, but first, a word from the sponsor.
Say what you will about the man, but he knows how to fill. We're coming back with more live ceremonies, the Hall of Fame inductions, right after this.
Popping with flavor, more flavor than ever, and less fat, too. It's the right thing to do. Popping with flavor. Bring those right, crisp flavors, they're new. And the taste indulging, right thing to do. Tangy, sour cream and onion, now more flavor on the chips. Less fat and less grease across your lips. Popping with flavor. Bring those right, crisp flavor. Once you pop, you can't stop.
At Pep Boys, save $40 on our premium brake service. Our ASE certified technicians will install Raybestos lifetime brakes for only $59.99 after rebate. Get lifetime brakes installed for only $59.99 at Pep Boys now. Now at Pep Boys, get any 4 of our 35,000-mile all-season steel-belted tires at an incredible low $109. That's right, any 75 or 80 series, any 4, just $109 at Pep Boys now.
The load in that quarterback's pants is brought to you by Greg Lloyd and his Brutus Lowe, who remind you that players are made in the preseason.
Some people love our crunchy tacos, others our soft tacos. Now Taco Bell introduces the double-decker taco with a taste big enough to bring the two sides together. The double-decker taco, just 79 cents.
Pushing camera 3.
Timeout is called right now. Shaq's got to do something big to get back in this game.
Commercial.
Shaq is leaving the court. What do you mean?
He's over there. He's on Lucy.
What?
I didn't know Shaq could ride a horse. Hiya, pal.
Well, the timeout is over. I wonder if he's going to get back. Hey, wait a minute. Shaq's back. He's got it. How about that?
He says there's nothing good on TV.
The next revolution in tires.
If you're like most guys, you probably don't have a clue what conditioners do for hair.
Got me.
But what if I told you they help hair lay right, stay in place, smooth flyaways?
Conditioners do that?
That's right. And there's no better time to see for yourself than now. With new Pert Plus shampoo and conditioner in one. Reformulated with some of the most advanced cleaners and conditioners out there. For much more manageable hair than regular shampoo with no more work. So, what do you think?
You know, I think I could get used to this.
New Pert Plus. Great hair, no fuss.
See more future Hall of Famers, ESPN regulars, Sunday Night Baseball, 8 Eastern. John Miller, Dave Campbell will call the game. Ruben Sierra, the new Yank, up against Kirby Puckett, still a Twin. The Hall of Fame induction ceremonies continue live on ESPN2. More of it coming up right after this.
When life becomes a battleground, your mind is your best weapon. What keeps you from using your mind's potential? What causes unexplained fears and pain? Shattered relationships, lost opportunities? Does it sometimes seem that there's a hidden enemy working against you? There is. It's called the reactive mind. It works against you in life, preventing you from using your full intelligence and ability. The reactive mind is the source of all of your unwanted emotions, self-doubt, and nightmares. There's only one way to get rid of it. Dianetics. Get it, read it, use it, and learn how to free your full potential. Dianetics. Get your copy now, wherever paperbacks are sold, or call 1-800-652-5500.
122! 122! Hut! 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 It's a quarterback keeper. He's at the 25, the 20, the 15, the 10, the 15, the 20.
The Arena Football League. 4 padded walls, 16 crazy men, and 1 football. Arena Football. On ESPN2. Big angry men in small, hard places.
Welcome back to ESPN2's live coverage of the Baseball Hall of Fame induction ceremonies. Right now, Donald Marr, president of the National Baseball Hall of Fame, is at the podium.
Former Commissioner of Baseball, Bowie Kuhn, and former American League President, Lee McPhail. Also representing the Philadelphia Phillies, Bill Giles. And representing the Boston Red Sox, John Harrington. We're also pleased to welcome Ed Rendell, the mayor of Philadelphia. It also gives me great pleasure to introduce several Major League players in the audience. Dick Allen. Where are you, Dick? Ralph Branca. Larry Christensen. Walt Dropo. Vaughn Hayes. Jim Cott. Gary Maddox. Masanori Murakami. Buck O'Neill. Where are you, Buck? Andy Simonek. Ted Sizemore. And former big league manager Eddie Sawyer.
We'll be coming right back with more of the Hall of Fame induction ceremonies. The first player to be inducted, the late and great Leon Day.
The newest way you can cure athlete's foot is the way doctors cure it. With the same ingredient they've prescribed millions of times. It's new prescription strength Desonex. Nothing cures athlete's foot better. New prescription strength Desonex, the doctor's cure.
Some people love our crunchy tacos. Others, our soft tacos. Now Taco Bell introduces the double-decker taco with a taste big enough to bring the 2 sides together. The double-decker taco, just 79 cents.
This defensive coordinator's nightmare is brought to you by Thurman Thomas and his righteous low, who remind you that players are made in the preseason.
Now at Pep Boys, get any 4 of our 35,000-mile all-season steel-belted tires at an incredible low $109. That's right, any 75 or 80 series, any 4, just $109 at Pep Boys now.
It's hot where you're going. four-wheeling down Baja. With the spirit of adventure as your guide and the Sea of Cortez as your goal. ESPN2's Beyond the Border Adventure. Your chance to win a 10-day expedition to Baja. To explore rugged mountain trails and desert island shores. Just you and 3 friends. No borders, no limits. To enter, send a postcard with your name and daytime phone number to P.O. Box 518, Hermosa Beach, California, 90254. ESPN2's Beyond the Border Adventure. Your chance to take the road less traveled. Brought to you by Taco Bell.
Impressive single season and career.
The first player to be inducted today, the late Leon Day, a star in the Negro Leagues. He's being introduced right now.
Venezuela, Mexico, and Canada. Set Negro League, National League record in 1942 with 18 strikeouts in a game. Hurled no-hitter on opening day in 1946 for the Newark Eagles versus Philadelphia Stars. Pitched in record 7 Negro League All-Star games.
First of all, I'd like to give honor to God, Mr. Stack, member of the National Baseball Hall of Fame. On behalf of my late husband, Leon Day, I'm honored to accept his plaque. This has been a very emotional year for me and my family. On March the 7th, we received the word that Leon had been inducted into the Hall of Fame. 6 days later, his weak heart gave out, and he was returned to his maker. Leon had very little opportunity to enjoy this great honor. But even though he is not here with us today, I know that he is here in spirit. I only wish all of you could have known my husband. He was a kind, gentle, and humble man. He was a good family man and a wonderful athlete. He never bragged about his many accomplishments, but he was always quick to praise others. He often talked about how many great athletes there were that played in the Negro League. He never could understand why there were so few that had been elected to the Hall of Fame. Leon was very proud the day he was elected. He was proud to be number 12, but he was sad that there was only 12 Negro League players in the Hall of Fame. He always said that there are so many of our boys that should be there. For the sake of Leon and all of the Negro League players, I pray that one day it will be made right. Leon had a vision of this day. Leon told me about his dream. He dreamed that he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. The day that he was inducted, he dreamed that dream that morning. So he called me at home and he says, baby, I'm in. I said, you in where? He says, I'm in the Hall of Fame. I said, you're in the Hall of Fame? He said, yes. Didn't you hear? I said, no. I said, Leon, do you know what time it is? He said, what time is it? I said, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. I said, they haven't even voted yet. He said, them people up there don't play around like you. He says, I'm in. So I noticed that he was real serious about this. So and I says, Leon, I said, listen, I said, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. I said, they haven't voted. I said, baby, you dreamed that you was in the Hall of Fame. So he got real quiet and he said, I must did. So after I went up to the hospital, the TV peepers and the meters and everybody was up there, and after everybody left, I stayed behind. So he said, Jerry, he says, let me tell you about this dream I had. He says, I dreamed that Ed Stack came into my room with a little box, and it was all wrapped up, and said, when he come in my room, he says, Dad, you made it. So he said to Ed, I made it. He said, yes. He said, you was in the Hall of Fame. Said Ed passed him the little box. He says, I was unwrapping the little box, and he said, I wouldn't open it. So he said, Ed says, open it. So he said, I opened the box and said, baby, that was the prettiest ring I ever seen. He said, I put my ring on my finger, and he said, that's when the phone rang. And he said, it was you. And that's when I realized that I wasn't in the Hall of Fame. He said, but I am now. I know I am. But he was a very happy man that day. He just lit the whole room up. He was saying, I got to get out of here now and go up to the Hall of Fame and really get my ring. So I'm so thankful that all of you has helped Leon's dream come true. I also want to thank all the friends and family that made this trip to be here with me today. I especially want to recognize Leon family. Will Leon family please stand? You all meant so much to Leon. And I thank God for you all, and I thank you all for coming to make this day and to enjoy this day for Leon. And I thank everyone out there that came and made this day possible for Leon. And I just wish all of you just enjoy yourself, and may God bless you. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
Day, the wife of the late Leon Day, who learned he'd been to the Hall of Fame and then died just a few days later. We'll be back with more of the induction ceremonies right after this.
You know, Linda's been my barber, stylist for years. Months. And a while back, she told me.
Stop squirming.
No. She said I should do something about my flakes. I said, get a new barber? She said, get new Head and Shoulders. I said, you're serious? She said, yeah. Now it has Micro D, which fights flakes better without stripping your hair of the oils it needs. So my hair feels soft. No flakes. And I owe it all to my stylist.
New Head and Shoulders, because great hair can't have flakes.
This is the new Champion Truck Plus, specially built for engines that get put to the test. We increase the spark area to last longer under the stress of hard work or hard play. And this unique copper core gets rid of heat quickly for a long life. Guaranteed 3 years. champion truck plug, built like a truck.
Man, that's Grant Hill. Grant Hill. Grant Hill drinks Sprite? Grant Hill drinks Sprite.
If you want to make it to the NBA, practice. If you want a refreshing drink, obey your thirst. Sprite.
Play the under the cap game, and you have a 1 in 6 chance of winning another Sprite. You can also win cool NBA stuff. Not too useful if you're thirsty. Handy if you plan on leaving the house.
Shaving can strip away your skin's moisture, leaving it dry, burning. But now you can take the heat out of shaving with new Old Spice Soothing Gel, an amazing 2-in-1 gel that combines aftershave and moisturizer into one soothing formula. Try it. If you don't think this makes your face feel great, call 1-800-PROVE-IT for a full refund. Prove it to yourself. Try new Soothing Gel. Takes the heat out of shaving. And now you've got proof. Guaranteed.
Not one, but two baseball games coming up Wednesday night. ESPN, the original, the Phillies and the Braves, the Mariners and the Angels will follow. That's all on ESPN starting 7:30 Eastern. We'll return live to Cooperstown for more of the induction ceremony. Baseball Hall of Fame coming up right after this.
He doesn't know it, but I found this under his pillow. I flipped through these great pages on sports, fitness, adventure. Now I know where all the excitement in our life comes from. Men's Journal. He really cares about living life better. Men's Journal covers everything better, from the best in mountain bikes to fishing in Alaska, from rafting down the Colorado to building a better body. It tells him how to get started, where to go, and what to do when he gets there. Men's Journal shows him where to find the best of everything. And every issue tells him how to look better, be healthier, and build endurance. From toning up his abs to tuning up our sex life. Men's Journal tells you everything about living life better.
Hey.
Start doing it better. Subscribe now to Men's Journal for only $11.97 and get this 200-page equipment guide absolutely free.
Call 1-800-863-2500. That's 1-800-863-2500.
Popping with flavor, more flavor than ever, and this fat too. It's the right thing to do. Popping with flavor. Bring those right crisp flavors, they're new. And the taste indulging right thing to do. Tangy sour cream and onion, now more flavor on the chips. Less fat and less grease across your lips. Popping with flavor. Bring those right crisp flavors. Once you pop, you can't stop.
Sam used every wall in the house for a backboard.
Yeah, he looks just like me anyway, so I think he got that from me.
He can do that maneuvering and get by.
I like to see Kenny when he steals it. He can steal a ball. Ow! 58 feet out. Swish.
It makes me feel 10 feet tall just to talk about him.
Kenny would get it.
Guess he got it from his mama.
Some people love our crunchy tacos, others our soft tacos. Now Taco Bell introduces the double-decker taco with a taste big enough to bring the two sides together. The double-decker taco, just 79 cents.
The newest way you can cure athlete's foot is the way doctors cure it, with the same ingredient they've prescribed millions of times. It's new prescription strength Desonex. Nothing cures athlete's foot better. New prescription strength Desonex, the doctor's cure.
While we were away, the late William Holbert, a key figure in the founding of the National League back in 1876, inducted into baseball's Hall of Fame. Right now, up next, the late Vic Willis. His name to be inducted. Turn-of-the-century pitcher. He once had 45 complete games back in 1902.
Called forth as one of the game's immortals. Vic Willis's grandson, Ben Decker, and his great-grandson, Thomas Hunt, Jr., are here today representing the family. Vic Willis's plaque reads, Victor Gasway Willis, Boston National League, 1898 to 1905, Pittsburgh National League, 1906 to 1909, St. Louis National League, 1910. tall, graceful workhorse with sweeping curve that made him a strikeout artist. While compiling 249-205 record, posted 50 shutouts and a 2.63 earned run average, and completed 388 of 471 starts. 45 complete games in 1902 are most in National League in the 20th century. Mainstay of the Boston Bean Eaters staff before trade to Pittsburgh, where he averaged 22 wins a season.
Good afternoon. On behalf of Vic Willis's family, thank you very much. Also, our thanks to the Veterans Committee and anyone who in any way contributed to today's events. Vic Willis grew up in the small college town of Newark, Delaware, playing baseball for the Newark Academy and later for the Wilmington YMCA. From there, he moved into professional baseball, pitching for teams in Harrisburg, Lynchburg, and Syracuse before earning his way to the majors. This was back in the era of uniforms with baggy pants and no numbers. Vic Willis's major league career extended over 13 years, from 1898 through 1910. It ended long before the Hall of Fame was established, and it's unlikely that anyone here ever saw Vic Willis throw a single pitch professionally. So with that in mind, let me tell you a little bit about a great turn-of-the-century curveball player from a small town in Delaware. Vic Willis was a tall, right-handed pitcher with a superb curveball. He referred to it as his grapevine sinker. Contemporary accounts indicate that he also threw a very effective drop pitch and could deliver slow and fast pitches with the same motion. Sports writers of his day referred to him as the tall twirler and credited him with outguessing batters who tried to outguess him. Vic Willis played for 13 years in the majors and compiled outstanding statistics. The statistics are impressive, and frankly, they should be for a player who is being inducted into the Hall of Fame. But there's something more about Vic Willis that mere statistics can't reflect, and that is his character. He was described in the Boston newspapers of his time as a gentleman on the field and off the field. This year marks the 100th anniversary of Vic Willis's entry into professional baseball. Over the years, many people have been supportive of Vic Willis's candidacy for the Hall of Fame. We are very grateful to all of them. Coincidentally, one of those who, as a sports writer, wrote in support of Vic Willis's admission to the Hall of Fame is Rich Ashburn. Rich Ashburn, we thank you for that support. It is a special honor to see Vic Willis admitted to the Hall of Fame in the same year with you. This is a banner year for the Delaware Valley. Rich Ashburn and Mike Schmidt both enjoyed long and fruitful careers with the Philadelphia Phillies. Vic Willis is the first major league player from neighboring Delaware to be admitted to the Hall. There he joins Judy Johnson, who played in the Negro Leagues, and Bill McGowan, an umpire, as the only Hall of Famers from Delaware. This is indeed a great day. On behalf of the Vic Willis family, thank you for this honor. Our entire family extends its heartiest congratulations to the other inductees who today join Vic Willis in receiving this, the highest honor that baseball can confer. Thank you very much.
More coming up right after this short break. 200 bus loads from Philly can't be wrong. Ashburn and Schmidt are next.
Sam used every wall in the house for a backboard.
Yeah, he looks just like me anyway, so I think he got that from me.
He can do that maneuvering and get by.
I like to see Kenny when he steals it. He can steal a ball. Ow! 58 feet out. Swish.
He makes me feel 10 feet tall just to talk about him.
Kenny would get it.
Guess he got it from his mama.
If you're like most guys, you probably don't have a clue what conditioners do for hair.
Got me.
But what if I told you they help hair lay right, stay in place, smooth flyaways?
Conditioners do that?
That's right. And there's no better time to see for yourself than now. With new Perk Plus shampoo and conditioner in one. Reformulated with some of the most advanced cleaners and conditioners out there for much more manageable hair than regular shampoo with no more work. So what do you think?
You know, I think I could get used to this.
New Perk Plus. Great hair, no fuss.
The newest way you can cure athlete's foot is the way doctors cure it. With the same ingredient they've prescribed millions of times. It's new prescription strength Desonex. Nothing cures athlete's foot better. New prescription strength Desonex. The doctor's cure.
Born at Indy, driven everywhere. Some people love our crunchy tacos. Others, our soft tacos. Now Taco Bell introduces the double-decker taco with a taste big enough to bring the two sides together. The double-decker taco, just 79 cents.
A reminder that ESPN will bring you the Hall of Fame at 6 Eastern. A full recap. Gary Miller and Roy Smalley, an interview with the great Mike Schmidt. But right now, another Philly, Richie Ashburn, just about to be inducted into baseball's Hall of Fame.
Has been a wonderful ambassador for baseball as both a player and a broadcaster. And today, his playing career is elevated to the highest rung. One of the most popular athletes in the history of Philadelphia, ladies and gentlemen, Richie Ashburn. Richie's plaque reads, Don Richard Ashburn, Richie, Philadelphia National League, 1948 to 1959, Chicago National League, 1960 to 61, New York National League, 1962. Durable, hustling leadoff hitter and clutch performer with superb knowledge of strikeout zone. Batted .308 lifetime with 9 .300 seasons and 2,574 hits in 2,189 games, winning batting championships in 1955 and 1958. As a center fielder, established major league records for most years leading leagues in chances 9, most years 500 or more putouts 4, and most seasons 400 or more putouts 9. Richie Ashburn.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, folks. Thank you. Thank you. Trying to figure out Why, everybody that comes up here is saying, what took you so long? Ed? No, just kidding. I'm not going to say that because I'm so happy to be here. Ed called me this spring. Ed, you should call more often. I enjoyed our visit and gave me the good news, and it's really changed my life a lot. It's changed my family's life a lot. Can't believe the number of people here today. Happy to see it. Pennsylvania, Delaware, New Jersey. Have a lot of Nebraska people here. One of them I have to introduce to you. Mom? 91-year-old mother. Who believe me, is a saint. I have a brother here, Bob, and Betty, my sister, from Nebraska. I have my family here, my wife, Herbie, the daughters, Jeannie, Sue Ann and Karen, and their families, my two sons, Richard and John, and their wives, a lot of cousins, a lot of nieces, nephews from the great state of Nebraska. Came here, over 100 of them, in force. And you Penn Staters should never forget we're number one. I don't know where. Ideally for me, this could have happened earlier because my father's passed away. Hang on. My twin sister passed away, and we had a daughter. But on the other hand, our grandchildren are here. They wouldn't have been here 20 years ago. We have 9 of them. I think 7 of them are here, all except the 2 little ones. So that's a nice thing that's happened, that they're here to be a part of this. Another great thing is I got to go in with Schmidt. Now, you don't plan something like this. You know, you can't orchestrate. Mike, of course, going in on the first ballot. I went in 20-some years later. Nobody could ever plan anything like that. But it is a tremendous privilege to go in with Mike. It would have been a tremendous privilege to go in with Steve Carlton, who went in last year. And it's nice also that my old teammate, Robin Roberts, who is here today. I saw Schmidt play every game he played. I saw him from the get-go when his manager said I'd trade Mike Schmidt for a load of pumpkins. Won't tell you who the manager was. But Schmidt was always a great fielder right from the get-go. No problems with the glove. He had a little trouble early, you know, with the bat, but I saw him improve and work and develop every year until he became the great player that we saw for so many years. And Mike, it's a real treat to be here with you today. I'm sincere about it, and I congratulate your mother and dad and Don and the kids. It was a privilege to have seen Schmidt and Steve Carlton, the 2 greatest I've seen in Phillies uniform. I can't believe this great turnout. I was just told by Ed here that it's the greatest crowd in the history of the Hall of Fame. Wish I could tell you that we had tasty cakes and pretzels out there, but I think you're on your own in that department. But it's so wonderful to see this many people. Wonderful to see the greatest manager I ever played for, Eddie Sawyer, who's sitting back here. Stand up, Eddie, would you? There's Eddie. I started my professional career in Utica, New York, which is, you know, just up the road here. Started with Eddie Sawyer in the old Eastern League in 1945. And we had a hell of a ball club, Eddie. But every young player should have had the opportunity to start playing professional ball for a guy like Eddie Sawyer. I played for him in the minors and part of my major league career. A wonderful person who taught us so much and was so good to all of us young people who were involved with the Utica Blue Sox at that time. Eddie, it's really good to see you here. I want to thank the Carpenters. I see Ruley sitting over here, the Carpenter family, who did so much for me and my family. The Bill Giles group now, with all the owners here who came up here to see this, who did so much for us here. I want to thank these guys back here who have made me feel so comfortable. I really didn't feel that comfortable coming up here. It's no secret. They didn't exactly carry me in here in a sedan chair with blazing or blaring trumpets. So I was a little shaky about joining this select group. And they have really been nice to all of us here, and I appreciate it. Some of you guys I played against, and I know why you're here. I'm not always sure why I'm here. I would have been here earlier if it wouldn't have been for some of these guys sitting behind me. They always said, the thing that's kept you out of here is Mickey, Willie, and the Duke. Well, I don't know about that. There are some other ball players that I think have been overlooked. I'm not a Crusader, but I would mention, I think Ronnie Sano was overlooked because of Ernie Banks. I think Veda Pinson was overlooked because of Frank Robinson. Some great ball players. I think Jim Bunning and Nellie Fox someday will go in there anyway. Aren't in yet, but I think they will. Nellie Fox, one of my dear and good friends. I'd like to see that happen to him one of these days. Somebody ought to check the record of our good friend Rusty Staub. I mean, there's some great players out there. Well, I'm not going to get into that. That's really not any of my business. I guess I already did. But that's not up to me. But there were some beautiful ball players who I think should probably be sitting up here someday. No. That will be covered, I can guarantee you. but not by me. I'll let the person who should mention something like that talk about it, but it's not me, and you will hear about it, I'm sure. I tell you, the greatest part about this day are the fans. I mean, really. I mean, this is awesome. This is awesome. And you know, I hope that baseball will pay attention a little bit to what has happened here today. I think there's a message here. I mean, we hear so many things about what's wrong with baseball. You people aren't here because they're having fireworks tonight. You're not here because they gave something away. Really not here to see a ball game. You're here for the baseball game. And I think that's a message that you send, that maybe we ought to get some things straightened out. You know, we're all in this together. I'm talking about the baseball owners, the baseball players, the guys like us who are the veterans. We're in it together. We're in it together with the fans. Listen to the fans. I mean, let's get this mess straightened out. We're sitting here without an agreement. We're sitting out here without a baseball commission. I can't believe this. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I just want to close. I just want to close by quoting Casey Stengel, who I played for in the 1962 Mets. It's his birthday today, believe it or not. I think he was born in 1892, but it's Casey Stengel's birthday. It was the last game of the 1962 New York Mets, the worst team ever put together in the history of baseball. I was the most valuable player on that team, I want you to know. We're playing the Chicago Cubs in Chicago. We're down by 1 run. We get a run. Sammy Drake leads off with a single. I followed with a single, my last major league hit, because I retired after that season. First and second, nobody out. Joe Pignatano hit what appeared to be a sure base hit, a little semi-line drive in shallow right center field. Sammy Drake takes off from second. I take off from first. Kenny Hubbs, who died a year later in a plane crash, great fielder, ran back on the dead run. He caught the ball in the web in his glove. He turned over about 6 times, held on to the ball, threw it to second out, back to first, triple play. Ended our season, our 120th loss, a major league record. As we walked into the visitors' clubhouse, Casey Stengel was standing there, and he said to us, he said, "Fellers," he says, "I don't want anybody to feel bad about this." He said, "This has been a real team effort." He said, "No 1 or 2 people could have done all this." Well, that's what I'm going to quote Stacey. No 1 or 2 people could have done all this, and everybody that had a part of it, God bless it, especially the fans. You have made this the greatest day of my life.
When we prepare the copy that goes on the Hall of Fame plaques, we only have a certain amount of space to work with. Our next inductee accommodated our needs quite nicely. He had no nickname. He only played for one team. Thus, we had ample room to list his accomplishments, and believe me, we needed all of it. Mike Schmidt could hit, run, and field with the best of them. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Schmidt. Michael Jack Schmidt. Philadelphia National League, 1972 to 1989. Unprecedented combination of power and defense with unusual mixture of strength, coordination, and speed made him one of the game's greatest third basemen. 7th on all-time list with 548 homers, his 8 home run titles, 1 tie, betted only by Babe Ruth. Belted 40 or more on 3 occasions and topped 30 10 other times. 48 home runs in 1980, most ever by a third baseman. Hit 4 in 1 game in 1976. 3-time most valuable player with 10 Gold Glove awards for fielding excellence. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Schmidt.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you. What a great day. I only wish that all of you out there could stand right here and see what I'm looking at. It's truly amazing. Thank you. Baseball dignitaries, Hall of Famers, wake up, guys. It won't be long. And fans. I'd first like to offer my congratulations, of course, to Bob Wolf, the family of the late Leon Day, William Hulbert, Vic Willis, and of course, Richie. Richie, I'm so pleased to be able to share this day with you. As a player, you truly had a Hall of Fame career. I know that because I had your baseball cards. Just kidding. And it's wonderful that you finally received the credit. My family and I congratulate you for an honor that's long overdue. And I want to personally thank you, Andy Musser, Chris Wheeler, and our close friend Harry Callis for all your support over the years. I really do stand before you a man that's totally humbled by the magnitude of this entire experience. It's unbelievable. To be honest, this historic annual baseball ritual is truly the finishing touch on what was an extremely rewarding career. To my friends, baseball dignitaries, and most of all you loyal fans and your families who've traveled many miles to be here, I'm honored and flattered that you came to Cooperstown. Back in January, a friend of mine put this whole honor in perfect perspective for me. He said, Mike, do you realize what being in the Hall of Fame means? It means your life and your career have been immortalized. They'll be remembered forever. I said to him, does that mean I'm immortal? He said, no, Mike, it means your name is immortalized. There is a difference. When I thought of it in that way, I had a great new appreciation for the magnitude of this whole thing. For months, I've been thinking about how to approach this speech. I wanted to come up with something from my heart. based on the 20 years that I played the game. I could not approach it simply as an acceptance speech. Considering the times we are in, I felt I had to deliver some sort of message. So often, we hear the words pride and proud used when a player reflects on his success. Yeah, I know I'm often guilty of giving myself too much credit for my accomplishments. In fact, there isn't one man up here on this stage who'd be here if it weren't for the talent and sacrifices of other people along the way. Today, if you'll bear with me, I want to acknowledge and thank many of those people who made my career possible. The chain of friends, coaches, and family who each in a special way made it possible for me to reach this field of dreams. So if you'll indulge me, I'd like to recognize some of these people. I'm a Daytonian. Are there any people from Dayton in the audience? Yeah, I see there's a couple of them out there. Cooperstown's a tough place to get to, I know. My mom, I told you should have closed Phillips Aquatic Club today so everyone in Dayton could make it here. My career began in my backyard when I was 3 years old. My grandmother, Schmidt, used to pitch me a tennis ball, and I'd whack it with a broomstick into the neighbor's yard. As I got older into organized baseball, in addition to driving me to games on the weekends, her thing was to tailor my uniforms, to tailor them so they just fit like her heroes, whose poster she had on her bedroom wall. Red second baseman Pete Rose. She passed away in 1980 before we won the World Series, but not before her hero and I became teammates and friends in 1979. I joined her and millions of baseball fans around the world in hoping that someday soon, someday very soon, Pete Rose will be standing right here. I know you all agree with me on that one. It's great that we see eye to eye on something, isn't it, Philadelphia? Pete stood for winning. We all know that. My first experience on a winning team was in 1950. We're back in Little League. I learned about discipline and teamwork from a coach named Jack Fenner. In high school, I was introduced to words that became my credo: sacrifice and hard work, by Dave Palsgrove. One summer, my baseball dreams almost ended. In fact, it was 1968, after my freshman year at Ohio University. I had to face the reality back then that I simply wasn't good enough at this game to make any team in Dayton, Ohio. But thanks to Ted Mills, a great baseball man back then, he gave me a chance to play. It was on that team that I met a man named Tom Schmidt, who became my future OU teammate, roommate, and best friend. Tom and I were inseparable through those years. Together we chased a dream of someday playing professional baseball. If there's one man that I could single out as having the most to do with me becoming a Hall of Famer, it would be Bob Wren, my baseball coach at Ohio University. He took me, a walk-on athlete at Ohio University, and developed me into an All-American in 2 years. He provided me with a baseball foundation that I relied upon as a pro and still use today as a high school baseball coach. A scout who once said he found me in Little League stayed with me through high school and college when no other scouts were interested in me. The late Tony Lucadello convinced the Phillies to draft me in 1971. Early in my career, I received support from behind the scenes. You know, in those meetings when young players' futures are hanging in the balance, great baseball men like Paul Owens, Andy Semenick, Cal Emery, and late Granny Hamner, a friend of Richie's I know, were all in my corner when I needed them. You know, life for me was not always baseball. There was God, family, and there were real people guys who come on once in a lifetime. A guy who I'll always consider my closest friend from baseball, Gary Maddox. Along with Gary, and the counseling of Wendell Kempton, Andre Thornton, Pat Williams, I found and committed my life to what is the real foundation for living, Jesus Christ. Few players these days remain with the same team throughout their career. Thanks to Phillies owners Ruly Carpenter and Bill Giles, I was able to establish a secure home in Philadelphia for my family throughout my career. I'll always be grateful to these men, especially Bill Giles, for their dedication, their character, and their love of the game. I'd like for Bill, who stood already, and Ruly Carpenter, if you're over there, please stand up for a second and be recognized. These are two great baseball men who I owe a lot to. Now more than ever, baseball needs more men like Bill Carpenter and Ruly Giles. I'd also like to congratulate Lee Thomas and the Philadelphia Phillies for all their success in the recent years. We're going through some tough times right now, but we'll bounce out of it. I wish you the best the rest of the year. Managers, I played for several real good ones. There's no question about that. They have a tremendous effect on a player's career. My first 7 years with the Phillies, Danny Ozark was our manager, and he accepted me as his personal project. In fact, he wanted to trade me for a load of pumpkins. Danny, I know we had some tough times, but I'll never forget the positive influence you had on my career. And then there was Dallas Green in 1980, our championship year. He pushed myself and my teammates to new heights, and we'll never forget that 1980 year. I'll also never forget Phillies coaches Bobby Wine and Mike Ryan. Those guys never objected to hours and hours of throwing me batting practice. My aches and pains were readily attended to by Don Seeger, Jeff Cooper, and the Phillies training staff. Gus Heffling and Pat Croce, two people you haven't heard much about, they taught me the value of training my body in the off-season, which may have been the most important professional commitment that I ever made. The Phillies are a family, a dedicated family with people behind the scenes who were wonderful to me. People like Larry Shank and his PR staff, Kenny Bush, Pete Cira, and all the home clubhouse staff over the years. And what about the Phillies fans? I know you're out there. I know you are. I've seen your caps. I've seen your license plates. I've seen your cars. I've seen your smiling faces for the past 3 days. You, in fact, have stretched the city limits of Philadelphia all the way to Cooperstown. It's unbelievable. I know you know this, that everywhere I go, I'm asked about you fans. I'm asked about what it was like to play in Philadelphia. Let me say this and make it as short and sweet as I possibly can. If I had it to do all over again, I'd do it in Philly. If I had it to do all over again, the only thing I would change would be me. I'd be less sensitive. I'd be more outgoing. I'd be more appreciative of what you expected of me. My relationships with Philadelphia fans has always been misunderstood. Can we put that to rest here today? I and my family sure hope that we can. Sure, there were tough nights and tough games at Vet Stadium. You got to realize that that's the nature of the sport we played. But I remember most your cheers of anticipation as I would come to the plate for a big at-bat, the curtain calls after big home runs, and that number 20, along with these other 3 guys being hung on the outfield wall at Vet Stadium forever. And that's the bottom line. Just like today, you're here. Back then you were there, and I know you care. And for that, I thank you. There are 2 special men in my life. Although they're not related to me, I consider them family. Because of their personal, business, and financial counsel, they've enabled my family to enjoy a secure life off the field. Arthur Rosenberg, who handled all of my financial affairs for the past 15 years, and Paul Shapiro, who along with Arthur negotiated all of my Phillies contracts. Also a special member of Arthur's organization, my sister-in-law and executive secretary, Joyce Christensen. I want to thank you all for all you've done for me. We all know that there's no substitute in life for family. I could have not asked for a more closely knit, supportive, loving family environment, growing up both as a young man and a married professional athlete. Mom, Dad, Sally, Ron, Jess, John, and my best friend, my wife, Donna. Will you stand? My greatest gift of all is to have you all healthy and able to share in this honor with me. In preparing this speech, I thought of some lessons I learned from my baseball career. Lessons like having patience and dealing with pressure, teamwork and unselfishness. Heaven knows we have to learn to deal with failure as baseball players. Establishing that goals can only be attained through sacrifice and hard work. And an important lesson I recently learned from my young son, John. And a lot of these guys knew this throughout their careers, but I'm not sure that I ever did. That baseball can actually be played for fun. For me, there's an important lesson I want to emphasize. And it's a lesson that not only parents, coaches, and players at all levels should hear, but it's a lesson that I want to make part of my own personal life as well. This lesson wasn't a part of a big home run or a big victory. This lesson started back in 1971 when a player named Bob Boone, who I'd never met before at the time, went out of his way and said to me, "Mike, nice hitting," as my home run for the Philadelphia Phillies big league club beat Bob's Reading Phillies farm team. You know, it was my first sense that I had a friend in professional baseball. It occurred again in 1974 when that highly respected player, Dave Cash, told me, and more importantly, he told all of my teammates and my manager that I was a player when everyone else was doubting my ability. Again in 1976, Dick Allen took me aside before a game in Chicago and said to me, "Mike, let's go out and have some fun today. No matter what the outcome, enjoy the sunshine, the crowd. Wrigley Field's a beautiful place." And I went out and hit 4 straight home runs. And finally, it occurred for me every day. It occurred every day from 1979 to 1983 when the greatest hitter ever, Pete Rose, started telling me, "Mike, you're the best player I ever played with." Those 4 guys molded my career with the magic of motivation. No matter who we are or where we play, from Little League to the big leagues, we're human. We need positive reinforcement. So let the motivation that I experienced in my career be a lesson to all you parents and coaches out there. Our kids need confidence. They need self-esteem, and in some cases, that's all they need. Let's all start balancing our scales with more positive reinforcement. Words of encouragement at the right time for our kids and from the right person could be more powerful and more enduring than any trophy you might give them. I assure you, without those 4 guys and the words of encouragement from me at the right time, I would not be standing here today. Before I close, I'd like to say one thing, that I consider playing professional baseball a privilege that's granted to only a few men. It's my sense that many of today's players are taking that privilege for granted. A game that at one time was steeped with passion, humility, and respect for the opposition has now given way to a look at me, in-your-face attitude. You know, this attitude is supported and commercialized by television. And I must add, it's highly suspect in its impact on our youth. Because I fear the impact of this attitude, I want to use this opportunity to warn the current generation of baseball players of the seriousness of the widening gap between our game and its fans. Now more than ever, our sport is vulnerable. We can't afford to lose any more fans to the more high-profile, fast-paced games of professional basketball and football. Since retiring, I've come to realize that baseball fans are unique. You too have a passion, a special appreciation for all that this sport embodies. No other sport has fans attached to such a significant and rich history as baseball. No sport requires its fans to follow them and their team through a meaningful regular season just to have an opportunity to play for the championship. And no other sport has fans that depend on it to entertain them through the long, hot summer. Those who are currently enjoying the fruits of the game had best realize that the key to the game's survival is that unique bond that this game has with its fans. Hall of Famers and their teammates built the foundation upon which our game rests. And their era strengthened that special foundation and that bond between baseball and its fans. Our game has reached a crossroads. I don't believe it can survive unless the team owners and players become one. Take a look at the empty seats at every game or drive by an empty playground where kids used to be playing ball. That concerns me. And baseball, it should scare you. Just a new basic agreement will not bring the fans back. Even great baseball won't ensure their return. There must be a new level, a higher level of cooperation and understanding. We need to recapture and re-energize the spirit of baseball fans. If we make the fans number one, they will come. I'd like to challenge the players and the owners to find an independent commissioner, a commissioner who would create a more amicable relationship between players and owners, one who will reestablish a solid network baseball television contract, and one who will promote the game's current players. Hey, and don't forget these men behind me right here. These are the greatest players ever as a resource for advancing the greatness of our game. Are there any kids out there? Let's hear the kids. To the young kids out there, I want to say one thing. Never stop chasing your dreams. Your dreams are your best motivators. My career is an example of how you can beat the odds, how someone's dreams can come true. But remember this, in the final analysis, you can believe in your dreams, you can be taught, supported, motivated, and loved by others, but ultimately your success depends on you. You must take responsibility for your body, for your mind, and for your character. In closing, my family and I thank everyone associated with the National Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown for their hospitality. The Baseball Writers of America for your support. Of course, the Philadelphia Phillies organization and all of my teammates over the years. My fellow Hall of Famers, I tell you, that sounds good to me. Thanks for coming back to support me this year. And not just Phillies fans, but every fan out there and every fan of our great game. And I also would like to thank God for this very, very special moment and for blessing my life in so many ways. Thank you all for coming. I'll cherish this honor forever.
Mike Schmidt calling for more positives in life, calling for Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame on a day his calling baseball brought him to Cooperstown. We're back in a minute.
When life becomes a battleground, your mind is your best weapon. Dianetics. Get it, read it, use it, and learn how to free your full potential. Dianetics. Get your copy now, wherever paperbacks are sold, or call 1-800-652-4466.
This could be your arm. This could be your chest. These could be your shoulders. This could be your thigh. This could be your stomach. This could be your back. This could be your body. This could be the way. The Soloflex Muscle Machine. Call now for a free brochure.
It's hot where you're going. Four-wheeling down Baja with the Sea of Cortez as your goal. ESPN2's Beyond the Border Adventure. Your chance to win a 10-day expedition to Baja. Just you and 3 friends. No borders, no limits. To enter, send a postcard with your name and daytime phone number to P.O. Box 518, Hermosa Beach, California, 90254. ESPN2's Beyond the Border Adventure. Brought to you by Taco Bell.
People think I catch the ball with my hand. But I don't. I catch the ball with my feet. My feet get me to the ball. The folks at the athlete's foot are trained to fit you properly, so you get more speed, body control, and perform better. I train in these new Nike Turf trainers because without my feet, my hands would be out of a job. Nobody knows the athlete's foot like the athlete's foot.
A reminder that ESPN Regular, the guys who thought up those 4 letters, they'll bring you full coverage of this Hall of Fame inductions, a recap, an interview with Mike Schmidt. That's at 6 Eastern, 3 out on the West Coast. It's been our pleasure to bring it to you live on ESPN2, the Baseball Hall of Fame inductions. Up next, Boys 19 Soccer National Championships from West Palm, Florida. And as usual, thanks for having cable.